Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I just want to say I hope everybody can find a seat. Uh, Thanks for signing up to attend this strategy briefing from Field Team 6. I'm Dale, and I'm the COO of Field Team 6. There will be a Q&A at the end, so feel free to post your questions in the chat, and we'll collect them, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can at the end. First off, I just want to send a whole bunch of love to everyone who has been impacted by the fires in Los Angeles. And thank you to everyone who helped in whatever way you could. The fires continue to burn, and in fact, new evacuation orders are being issued for a new fire today. Miraculously, people continue to step forward to help. First responders, volunteers, donors, generous folks offering a room to those who've had to evacuate, etc. So thank you to all of them. Thank you to all of you. A quick note about fundraising. We all received the avalanche of crazed requests for money in the run-up to the election. We are not going to fundraise tonight. It's our little gift to you who just need a break from the asks. And if you're the exception, it's easy enough to find the button you want on our website. That said, speaking of fundraisers, I want to start off the evening with a little good news. In 2021, I met a Field Team 6 volunteer by the name of Kala Maxim in person for the first time at a wonderful and reoccurring Field Team 6 fundraiser called Ballots Over Broadway. I thought she was extremely cute and very smart, and so I asked her out that night, and she said yes. A year ago, on New Year's Eve, I asked her to marry me, and her reply was a not particularly PG-rated yes. 2 weeks ago today, while in Belize, barefoot and windblown, as the sun went down on a borrowed dock running out into the sea, we got married. You'll meet Kala a little later in the program, but if you're wondering if volunteering is a good thing, take it from us. The answer is yes. So, is Field Team 6 still around? A definitive yes. What's the role of Field Team 6 going forward? We are the gateway that gets millions of people who are currently ignored, who are not yet welcomed into the system, over that registration threshold so they can use their voices. Field Team 6 has 6 years of experience doing partisan voter registration, which is voter registration unshackled. We are not beholden to the Democratic Party. In fact, our founder worked for the Democratic Party in the run-up to the 2018 midterms and founded Field Team 6 to do what the party was not: partisan voter registration every day of every year. We fly the pirate flag, and we're nimble as hell. We pivoted an in-person voter registration organization into 100% digital when the pandemic hit, and with great success. We took what we learned and applied it again in the 22 cycle. Everything that worked in the 22 cycle, we iterated on in our outreach for the 24 cycle. We don't know yet what we'll learn from our work in the 24 cycle, but we know whatever it is, it will make everything we do going forward even more effective. If you are fearful, you are not alone. If you are hopeless, you are not alone. If you are overwhelmed and exhausted and angry, you're not alone. These are not normal times. You are not normal people. We are in extraordinary times. You are extraordinary people. It's clear because you are here right now, despite everything. Please welcome the founder of Field Team 6, Jason Berlin.
Beautiful. Mazel tov, all the mazel in the world to you, Kala and Dale. Wow, beautiful, beautiful story. And thank you for all of that. That is all true. I second and third every single thing you said. Hello, everyone. How many people? We're up to 693 people on this call. You are inspiring. Oh my God, that for 693 people to be on this call at this time, at this moment in history, not curled up in a ball, but on a Zoom, looking for what you can turn, what concrete results you can turn your grief and rage into to create a more positive world. That is so profoundly beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. Uh, we are living through dark times. And yet in what we've done together and what we plan to do, you're about to hear many, many huge reasons for hope. To start us off, I want to read a beautiful piece written by Wayne Liebman, our own Wayne Liebman, a retired anesthesiologist and playwright who happens to be one of the best organizers I've ever met in my life. He's one of the founding members of Field Team 6. We wouldn't be here without him, as well as the founder of our sister project, bluevoterguide.org. The piece is called Why I'm Still in This. It starts with a quote from Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. There's no way to peace. Peace is the way. A lot of folks have written a lot of things about continued activism in the face of the November presidential defeat. Rebecca Solnit said, there are other kinds of resistance that mean making your own life and your own mind an independent republic for the pursuit of truth, human rights, kindness and empathy, the preservation of history and memory, of being an example of someone living by values. Back to Wayne. To which I say, amen. And this, ours is not a one-time battle, but a pursuit to live our values. Like many of us, I'm class of 2016. I spent the past 8 years of my life with my hair on fire, working 24/7, setting up organization after organization, all of which was, according to some of the smartest people I know, supposed to prevent what happened in November. I stopped going to movies and plays, stopped reading anything except political writing, stopped seeing friends, stopped buying clothes. In 8 years, I didn't read one poem or one short story. I told myself I had a lot to learn, and it seemed like I telescoped 20 years of learning into that 8. It didn't work. If I'm being honest, I have to say that as a result, I now know that I know nothing, and neither do the smart people, most of whom I've stopped reading. A lot of ink has been spilled by smart people, telling us why the election result was inevitable, despite the fact they failed to see it coming. So I don't know what the next 4 years will bring. A lot will be bad, I suppose, and maybe the leadership of the Democratic Party will rise to the occasion. But what I do know is I will be living differently. Here's a story I think about a lot. Some years ago, when Poland was still behind the Iron Curtain, a movement for Polish independence arose. It was called Solidarity. The leaders of Solidarity knew that they could not prevail against Soviet tanks, so they made a radical, imaginative leap. They said, your tanks don't matter. We're simply going to act as if we are already living in the new reality of Polish freedom. They organized on that basis, electrified the nation, and Soviet power collapsed. You can look it up. That's the magic of as if. Living your values is like that, a radical act of imagination. Living your values says to the authoritarians, your money and power don't matter because your values sit at a table outside, in spite of or simply apart from political argument, where the usual structures of compliance and coercion don't operate. You simply live your values as if they really matter because you've given yourself that authority. There is no tank, no amount of money or entrenched power that can prevail against that simple act. So yes, I'm still in this, but my hair is no longer on fire. It's no way to live. I went to the movies last week. I'm seeing friends. I'm learning a musical instrument. And I'm living my values in random moments of kindness and senseless acts of beauty and what I do for Blue Voter Guide. I don't know when we'll win, but I do know the way. Thank you so much for that gorgeous writing, Wayne. So beautiful. Who is Field Team 6? Field Team 6 is a volunteer army on a mission. Register Democrats, save the world. Field Team 6 is the one and only national organization proudly registering Democratic voters all year, every year in battleground states and flippable districts where just a few votes decide elections. Why? because registering voters, Democrats, and people who will vote for Democrats is the most effective and efficient way we've ever seen to win elections, bar none. And whatever causes are most important to you, winning elections is the only way to push all of those causes forward at once. Like Dale said, we are not part of the Democratic Party. We receive no funding from the Democratic Party. We'd love to, but don't. We have no corporate funders. Most of our funding comes from regular people, grassroots donors, many of whom are also volunteers. We are agile. We have no bureaucracy. We are creative and adaptable. We're our own organization, a 527 federal PAC that is absolutely unique in its ability to do partisan voter registration in all 50 states. Our organization is vast majority women, and we focus on registering women, young people, people of color, the LGBTQ plus community, and every single good-hearted American we can find. We do partisan voter registration in every possible way. We do in-person voter drives. We also do the lion's share of our work in digital outreach via email, text, postcard, and phone call. To do all this outreach, we employ a first of its kind database currently containing millions of unregistered likely Democrats, the vast majority in swing states. These are the people who are forgotten by all the other organizations. They're not registered, so they're not on the voter rolls. They don't get the emails and the phone calls and the postcards, except from us. So whenever possible, we do our outreach in partnership with grassroots organizations on the ground in these states. So we're empowering not just the new voters we register, but also the local organizers. From our official start in 2019 through the 22 midterms, because that's what we have the results on so far, Field Team 6 delivered 2.3 million new Democrats and independent voters at the largest scale and lowest cost ever seen in progressive organizing. We did that for $1 a voter, or $8.58 per net new vote. That makes Field Team 6 the best bargain in politics. We have only 3 paid staff, including me. We have a volunteer staff who was incredible, of about 100 people. And we're now up to almost 33,000 volunteers across the country in every state. Speaking of which, please volunteer for our upcoming events. You are responsible for all the good we do. You'll be hearing about all the different ways there are to help, and we'll be dropping the link to our volunteer ops page in the chat now and throughout the event. So this hour, you're going to hear first about the amazing discovery we made last year that changed everything for us. Then you're going to hear from our volunteer leaders who made all this massive outreach to all for the purpose of voter registration possible in the 24 cycle. You can hear about some special projects we're involved in, and then I'm going to come back and talk about our big plan for victory this year in 26 and in 28. After that, we'll do a little Q&A. All right. So as we get started, I just want to preempt a question I know everyone has and let you know what we cannot yet know are how many people registered to vote after how many people registered, what their party was, and how many voted after our outreach in the 24 cycle. We will know that, but not until the spring when all 50 states have updated their voter rolls. It takes them a while to do it, and then it will take us some time to finish the arduous, thorough work of comparing all the people we reached out to in our database with the voter rolls to see who registered, what party, and who voted. As soon as we finish that work, sometime in the spring, summer, we will get that to you. We are also dying to know. What we can tell you is how many people we reached out to in the 2024 cycle. That's part of what you're about to hear. Our goal was 10 million. I'll just say that. Our goal was 10 million, double what we had done in 2022. All right, I'm going to hand it back now to our incredible COO, beautiful groom to be, Dale Roy Robinson.
Oh, I'm not to be. I am a groom.
You are. Yeah.
I'm married right now.
Right. That was fast.
Well, that's a good lead into to my introduction to Patty Crane. I don't marry every volunteer that I admire here at Field Team 6, just Kala. But Patty is admirable. She is fantastic. She's not only on our steering committee, which is our roundtable, she also leads our analytics team. and she was this COO of her own marketing and communications firm for 32 years. Please welcome Patty Crane.
Oh, hi. Thank you for the introduction, Dale. And sometimes we talk so much during this 2024 cycle, especially in the last 90, 120 days, that no bride would get that much attention as compared to the head of the analytics team, right? Because of the amount of work we are doing. So also congratulations to you and Kala. We're all so thrilled, so utterly thrilled for you. All right, so I'm going to share screen, and I want you to give me a thumbs up that says that you're seeing my screen. One of the things I want to say is, as a person who retired, handed the keys to my firm over to my staff in Atlanta, and moved to LA in order to be near my sons and their families, I was so startled to discover that the Democratic Party had gotten out of the voter reg business, except for a few weeks right before elections, and said, oh no, we'll let the nonpartisan C3s or even the partisan C4s handle it. That was a decision that was made under budget duress in 2004. And I thought, what's wrong with this picture? I could hardly understand it. So there was Jason Berlin educating me about, oh, Patty, you just wouldn't believe how this actually works and how this actually doesn't work. That's the other thing that I wouldn't believe. So when I was first welcomed by Jason and Wayne into Field Team 6 and plunged deep into voter registration and began to learn about it, there are several things that I concluded. The first one was that we we can't leave this to the parties because it's too important, and depending on the health of the parties in different parts of the country, it's just too important. So we got to do it. And that being able to do it as a 527 partisan organization is the only right move, even though that was very surprising to lots of people. It was also true what I spotted in Jason and the team he had already assembled, even in the early months and the early years, was incredible nimbleness and iterative style. You go out, you do a weekend of voter registration drives, you learn more stuff, like which hotspots worked and which ones didn't, and you change what you do the following weekend. Okay, I like that learning curve. I love it when I see a praxis model where people take what they learn and instantly deploy it and get better and better and better and better. And just as Dale said, I'm so proud of Field Team 6 for now getting through 3 electoral cycles, the 2020 with the pandemic, the 2022, an odd midterm where we had so many wonderful breakthroughs, and 2024, where our hearts are all broken but our work was important. So I'm proud of being part of a nimble group and being able to uncover important data as it relates to that. So as you know, we pivoted to digital voter registration in the pandemic, and we began to assemble the database of unregistered likely Democrats. And as you may remember from all of our impact reports from 2022, we were so proud that we had managed to reach out to 5 million unregistered likely Democrats in the midterm cycle. For us, that was huge, huge, huge. It was just amazing. And it was an exciting thing. We were proud of us. When we went out to acquire the names of unregistered likely Democrats, at first it was easy in 2020 and in 2021, and then it got harder in 2022, and then it got harder in 2023. And now I'm going to tell you about what happened in 2024. We were down to a likelihood of only 40 to 50% predictive value in terms of the way the political data vendors were offering us names. Um, um, it turned out that the people weren't only 40 to 50% likely to register as blue or purple. It turned out that because of our partisan messages, which we were able to do as a 527, 81% of the people we registered were blue or purple. And in most states, it was closer to 90%, but in a few very, very red states, we still triggered people to register as red. So we honestly counted all of them, and our net was 81%, which is how we got to this wonderful number of 1.57 million of those 5 million people who registered as either blue or purple. So blue being registered as a Dem or Working Families Party or one of those very Dem-oriented parties, or purple, which is unaffiliated. And some of that is projected because you have to, because some states don't report the party affiliation of their people. All right, and over the cycle, the 22 cycle, we spent less than $1.5 million. And of course, that worked out to not even $1 a voter. It was 93 cents. And boy, was that a great bargain. And it was, of course, because digital outreach scales so well. But then there was the question about, well, how well will it scale? So Jason scared us all. In 2023, you're smiling, Jason, but we weren't always smiling. I just want to point that out, that it was a little bit scary. But he said, oh, come on, let's double what we did in the 22 midterms. We got to raise double the dollars because we got to fund the work, because it costs money to do the outreach to these people. But let's go ahead and double it and get to 10 million, and which might deliver as many as 3 million new voters. Well, wow, of course we'd love that. But wait, we had a problem. Uh-oh. And what was that problem? Yikes. In June of this year, Dale was out there buying names left and right, acquiring names. Corey Alpert, our strategist, was working every angle he could with every political vendor he could. And guess what? They all ran out of names. They basically said, you bought every name we can sell you. And we said, well, that's not possible. This is only 8 million. We're trying to get to 10 million. And it was pretty horrifying, actually. And every new person we would negotiate with, and we would think there's a big new list that we could acquire, and then we'd run that list against the database that we had already created. And guess what? We already had all those names. They weren't new names anymore. So, okay, now what do? We recruited some savvy data scientists. I'm so proud of the analytics team who made such an incredible difference. And I especially want to call out Joe Guido and Peter Hosey and Kamala Tate and so many other people, because it's just so important. We developed our own data model. We took all of our results from 2022 and we partnered with a new commercial vendor, not a political vendor. We asked them to apply machine learning and a variety of commercial markers and work that data. They had a big enough N of good names. Not only who did we reach out to, but who registered the way we wanted, who turned into a Dem. And with those names, they tested the new data model that they built. They tested it against an updated national list of 100 million voters, where we knew the party of the 100 million voters. And oh my gosh, instead of the 40 to 50% predictive power of the old models from the political vendors, this model predicted with 93% accuracy whether someone was going to be registered as a Dem or not. So we had doubled the predictive power. Well, were we excited or what? I mean, July 19th, 2024, I was weeping on a Zoom. It was that big of a deal in my personal life and in the lives of other people. Because when you look at 45% predictive power versus 93% predictive power, like, oh my gosh, it's just amazing. So what happened because of that? Suddenly, we could buy millions more names of unregistered people, run them against the registration thing, and also run them against all the names we already had in our database. And we were confident that as long as they fit our data model, that they had a 93% likelihood to fit with us. Well, that was fantastic. And then a funny new thing happened. Instead of being completely stalled out and unable to acquire more names, we got so many names so fast, we almost broke our software platform. And boy, there were a lot of long nights as we were worried about, acquiring millions of names. So let's go back and remember, okay, how many people did we reach out to in 22? We reached out to 5 million unregistered likely Democrats. And actually, the number of touches that each person got in 2022, before we had intel on the efficacy of different methods, was 1.92 touches each. That's just the average. And we had hoped to double it. So this is what it looked like back in 2022. We were so proud, 5.5 million texts, 3 million emails, 1 million postcards, and almost 150,000 phone calls. This was back in 2022, and this just felt like a miracle to us that we got so much done. However, because of our data modeling breakthrough, and then of course we had to have a lot of donors step forward and help fund because we had to acquire these names and then we had to have the money to pay for working the names, we were able to quintuple the prospect list from 5 million to 25 million. Joanne, I see you clapping there. And every time I think about from 5 million to 25 million, that's what I do. I clap because it just feels so amazingly good. So let's take a look. All right, we've crossed out the old numbers that we did last time here. So these are the old numbers from the prior cycle. Now let's take a look and see what happened in the new cycle. All right, 40 million texts. And you're going to hear from our own Deb Verla, who is leading the BYOP and the other team members who are leading the BYOP texting, which 7 million of those texts didn't go from the big fancy text processor. They went from people's personal computers where we used a funny kind of software in order to do free texting. And we got 7.1 million extra texts out free because of the volunteers who did that. Okay, what else did we do? 27 million emails. Okay, it's only 9 times what we had done before. And by the way, probably Corey and Jason, who composed them, feel like they hand wrote all of them because the emails were utterly, utterly, utterly customized for where a person was or who they were or what org they belonged to or what group or how we sourced their name. Just super hyper custom emails. Amazing. All right. 2.4 million postcards. Once again, awesome, awesome, amazing. And wow, even 200,000 phone calls. So are we proud of that? Yes, we are proud of that. Who knew? We knew we could scale. We had a sense of that. We had no idea that we could scale this far, this fast, once we had our data breakthrough. So our average outreaches, instead of being 1.92 per person, then jumped up to 2.8 outreaches per person. And we had pretty good information from our study of our impact prior that getting up to 3 contacts per person works pretty well. And then you start to get to diminishing return when you go beyond that. So we were really happy to get to that number. So 70 million emails, texts, postcards, and calls, 2.8 outreaches for the cycle. And all I got to say is this depressing thing, which is hurry up and wait. We're all frustrated with how long we have to wait. Some states already have their stuff in gear and they already do it, and it makes everybody feel impatient. But so many states underfund their voter registration and their voter rolls and their registrars and all of those people. And they're very, very laborious and slow. And you can't appropriately do the update until you do it. And it's kind of agonizing where you got to take 25 million names. Do you know how many John Smiths there are in a batch of 25 million names? And we got to get all the right John Smiths by matching the cell phone number or matching the address or matching the email or matching all three. It's hugely important. We'll never know how they voted, but we'll know if they registered, and we'll know in the case of the states that report it, whether they registered as Dem or something else. And we will also know if they voted. If they went ahead and registered, then we'll also know if they voted. So I just want to thank everyone who is on this call for supporting this effort, for understanding, for stepping up and giving sacrificially as we were working our way through August and September and October, acquiring these millions of additional names. Lots of midnight oil got burned, and lots of round the clock stuff. We all look pretty haggard after the election, but I am so glad we did what we did. We will find out what the results are later, but we already know that it was worth the effort, and we're so proud of it. And thank you all for your part of it.
Thank you, Patty. Yes, and thank you to the whole analytics team for allowing us to do that capacity building. Yes, we do want to build capacity in all the things that we do at Field Team 6, but it's really the volunteers that allow us to do that. And so Patty, as the leader of the analytics team, and then getting like some really incredible people on that team allowed us to build out the capacity. So without them, we would not have been able to do this. And I just want to reiterate, because I'm seeing a lot of questions in the chat about like the results. Yeah, Jason mentioned this already. We want to know the results too. We want to know how many people registered after our outreach, which method is the most effective, et cetera, et cetera. We are not going to know that until later in the spring. And that is because we have to wait for all 50 states, secretaries of states, to update their voter rolls before we can even start the hard work of crunching the numbers, comparing our data to the voter tables in all 50 states. So when you're asking like, well, what happened? What you did all this outreach. What's the result? We don't know yet. We don't know yet. So I'm not going to take any of those questions in the Q&A because we've already answered that question. So you can ask them, but we're not going to answer them because we don't have the answers yet. But as soon as we have those answers, and we want them as badly as you do, we're going to share them. So anyway, thank you, Patty. Thank you to the analytics team. And the other reason that we were able to increase our capacity was because of our incredible partnerships team and the partners they were able to bring to the table. So now I would like to introduce you to the volunteer who runs our partnership team, Kala Maxim. She also happens to be my wife.
Hello, everybody. I'm the luckiest girl in the world to be married to Dale. I'm a wife. That's so weird. Anyway, down to business. By the way, the sexiest thing is activism. I think it's just the greatest thing in the world. Okay, so the partnerships team works with teeny tiny partners and big partners across the country. We've worked in all 50 states. My favorite story is Lori in Indiana, who was like, I don't have anyone in my town. No one will work with me. I don't know what to do. What can I do? And I was like, well, how about we do a small text bank for you? And she did it. And she wrote me like in caps. No one else has paid attention to me. Thank you so much. I feel like I did something. What did we do? We went and found some data for her. We went into the database that we have of unregistered voters. If we have data, you can use it for free to do a phone bank, a text bank, a postcarding campaign, other digital outreach. If we don't have it, we'll see if we can buy it and we'll buy it for you based on where you are and what you want to do. So far, we've partnered with way over 200 partners. I actually counted line by line yesterday, and it was 326, I believe, of partners we've ever partnered with since we started. The other thing that makes partnerships really special is that we work with our partners on the script. So we come to them with a demo script and they go, love that part. Actually, over here, we say it like this, and this message is going to resonate better with our constituents. And we go, okay, and we change it. It's not that they have to do what we say. We write a script that they know will resonate with their local folks. So if you are a partner organization out there, and you have worked with us, or if you haven't, email partnerships@fieldteam6.org. We know about Wisconsin. We know what's coming down the pike. We will do all those things. We're really also interested in those local elections, those really teeny tiny local elections. So if we can help you, please email us. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you. Thank you. It's a really incredible team, the partnerships team. So if you are interested in bringing a partnership to the organization, please reach out to partnerships@fieldteam6.org. I'm sure that is in the chat right now, and we'll get you hooked up. All right. We also have other volunteers that are equally astounding. And so I would like to introduce you to a volunteer that leads not one, but two of our astoundingly successful teams, Deb Verla.
Cool. Thank you, Dale. It is so much fun volunteering with Field Team 6. If you haven't volunteered with us before, you really should be. But I want to talk to you about two things. First, social storming. We started social storming about 4 years ago, and we used it to recruit new volunteers, to get our registered Democrats messages out. And we have shared millions of posts and generated billions of impressions all over the socials. The numbers are too big to even talk about. But, you know, in this past couple of years, we've built a powerful presence on Twitter. And like all of you, we know it's become toxic. And like so many of you, we decided to cut those ties. It's been really hard. But luckily, we've got a better platform now with Blue Sky. Over 600 of you have already come to our new Blue Sky training sessions. We started in December. We made January all about learning this new platform. Next month, we'll be resuming our trainings on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. But for right now, it's all about Blue Sky. And of course, we'll stay on TikTok as long as that's here. But does this work? And the answer is yes. We have a toolkit of ready-made, positive, pro-democracy posts available for you to share on any of the socials. It's the easiest thing you've ever done. The interesting thing is, though, we have this crazy high click rate on our posts. People love the messages, and they click on the links to go to either the Field Team 6 website or a mobilized registration page. In the 2 months before the election, our 48,000 posts generated 15,000 clicks. There's training sessions every week to show you how to use our toolkit and tips and tricks about your favorite platform. Okay. The other thing I want to talk to you about is BYOP texting. Patty mentioned it earlier. BYOP is our own homemade texting platform. It's not as fast and it's not as fancy as text out, but it allowed us to text into all of our focus states plus 38 House districts in 24 states. We sent almost 7 million texts during this election cycle, thousands of volunteers texting with us. And the best thing about it, it was all free. So we'll be starting BYOP textings again next month. After you set up just a couple easy things on your computer, you can then text anytime that's convenient for you. It only takes about 15 minutes to send out your day's worth of texts. So take a look at the volunteer opportunities page, join us for an upcoming social storm or for a BYOP training session. We'll put some links into the chat and we'd love to have you join us for either or both of those. You know, if you like using your computer, texting and social storming kind of go hand in hand. So come and join us. back to you.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you so much. It's really impressive to see what Deb has done and the sheer number of trainings that she's held for both social media and BYOP. Um, it's it's like watching like the stock market on a great day where it's just the angle of that chart just keeps going up and up and up. Um, what we've actually pulled off with both of those teams is beyond our wildest dreams. I mean, the BYOP started when we had no money in 2021 after the 2020 election. We'd spent everything, and then we spent it all again in the Georgia Senate runoff. And we were just sitting around and we're talking and saying like, well, we have all this data now. How do we text for free? And Corey, who you're going to hear from in a minute, came up with a very clunky way to do it, cutting and pasting. And then we had a volunteer who did it, a little bit of software and made it easier. And then we've had other volunteers, including Alicia Garza, who's on the call tonight, make it even easier. And then suddenly we're doing millions of free texts with BYOP. So super impressive. Not to mention the billions of impressions we've got on different social media platforms because of our social media outreach, which, by the way, all recruits volunteers and donors to get more work done. So thank you, Deb. Thank you so much. All right. Our postcarding czar can't be here tonight. So I'm going to read a little bit from Sharon, who was going to present this. She said, we started our postcarding program in 2021, and like all Field Team 6 programs, we strive for fun, accessibility, and most importantly, effectiveness. According to our impact report in the 2021-2022 cycle, 20% of the people we wrote to registered as a Democrat or Progressive Independent voter. And in the 24 cycle, we were able to send a record-breaking 2.4 million postcards. How does our program work? We provide addresses of likely Democrats in crucial states and districts, as well as carefully researched, strategic, persuasive messaging, and our volunteers provide postcards, postage, and of course, the writing effort. To get started, you can go to fieldteam6.org and click on volunteer and then postcarding, which will take you directly to the Getting Started page of our postcarding site. If you follow the prompts, you will create an account and then you can view our available campaigns and download addresses and scripts and instructions. Right now, the Wisconsin Supreme Court campaign is posted, and we'll be posting campaigns for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and the governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia within a day or two. If you need a little extra guidance in getting started or some community, there is a video on the Getting Started page that explains how our program works, and we also have live Zoom trainings with our fabulous trainers, Miriam, Dolly, and Sue, which you can sign up for here. And that link will go into the chat. You can also email Sharon with any questions at postcards@fieldteam6.org. And Sharon says, won't you join us? All right. So let's now toss it to the co-czar for our amazing text arcades, Dana Williams.
Thanks, Dale. Hey, everybody. I am feeling rejuvenated just by being here, but just with all these like amazing stats. Like I didn't mean to dress all in black like on purpose, but I it's probably, a mindset all week, but I'm feeling better now seeing all of you and hearing all these stats. Just a couple things about our text banks. During the 2024 cycle, we passed the 10,000 volunteer mark, and I just checked, and we are almost at 12,000. So I'm very hopeful that in the next couple weeks we'll surpass that number. Like Patty and others mentioned, we sent over 40 million texts for voter registration in the 2024 cycle. The paid text banks, which are free to you, paid sponsored text banks, those are probably the most effective, but also the most expensive, one of the most expensive things that we do. It costs an average of 4 cents per text. And along the way, I think we started it back in 2020, and Deb, correct me if I'm wrong, but we started what's called the text arcade. And that is a way for you, the volunteers, to to help offset that cost for the texting, and it guarantees you a certain amount of text. In this case, it's usually at least 1,400 texts. We had so many wonderful donors this cycle that paid for thousands of texts so everybody could send extra texts. And what started with literally a half dozen people sometimes on a Thursday or a Tuesday night grew to over 100 people. I went back and looked. I think it was 130 people on Halloween, which was the last text arcade before the election. So we had 130 people donating their time and money to text and register voters, register Democrats. And then at our last paid text bank, which is sponsored by our amazing partners, we had over 700 people involved on that last Saturday. So we had to take a break just like all of you, but we are now getting ready to get back into it. And we do have text arcades coming up in February. So we will have text arcades coming up starting on February 4th. We are going back to Tuesdays. So Tuesday is now tacos and texting again, for me anyway. And we're going to be texting North Carolina. So please check the website and get signed up for our text arcade. Again, that is going to require a monetary donation, but you will be guaranteed a certain number of texts that are just yours to send. And I just want to thank everybody, almost 12,000 of you that participated in the text arcades and text banks. Thank you guys so much.
You had me at tacos. Thank you, Dana. And also thank you to Meredith, who couldn't be here today, but is like so essential to our text banking program, who literally was responsible almost single-handedly for sending out what is it, 40 million texts? I forgot the number already. There's so many numbers flying around. All right. I want to also introduce our chief strategist here at Field Team 6, Corey Alpert. Corey.
There we go. Thanks so much, Dale. And thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. So I'm currently working, I work with Dale and Jason on pretty much everything around here, but we're working on an interesting problem. Something that a lot of volunteers and supporters and Democrats across the spectrum have been thinking about and working on is this challenge of media. Is this challenge of how are we talking to voters beyond an election, beyond talking to them specifically about voter registration, which we are the best in the world at doing, but building a story around that. So right after the election, along with some other great friends and people in this space, we launched a project which for the time being we've called How to Lose a Guy in 4 Years, which is about launching some of those media projects, which is about launching and having conversations with voters, with people out across the country in not necessarily political ways. So we're launching podcasts about gardening. We're launching podcasts about NASCAR. We're launching a podcast, one of my favorites, with a woman named Shauna who lives in Colorado, who's just talking about being a mom and figuring out how to make living with 2 kids work within her budget. These aren't explicitly political, but they have progressive values built in. And we're basically taking the playbook that the right wing has built for the last 10 years. We're not trying to make the next liberal Joe Rogan. We can't do that overnight. We don't have that person. But what we can do is build a progressive media ecosystem that isn't inherently political, that lets people come in, lets people come to us, lets people have conversations with us, and lets us talk to them where they already are. So far, we have about 100 volunteers who are editing and producing and making designs and doing everything that we need to get those media properties off the ground. We'll drop a link in just a moment if that's of interest to you. We have 4 projects that are currently working up. And my right hand, Janet Algaze, who's on this call, is helping with that as well as everything else, and always want to give her a big thank you. So if you're interested in that, And if you're interested in helping get some of those projects off the ground, we would absolutely love to talk to you. And we'd love to work with you, whatever your skill set may be, whether it's, again, editing, producing, anything like that. We'll drop a link, and we'd love to have your support and your help.
Thank you, Corey. Yeah, I do think that that's an answer to uh, a lot of the concern that people have had after the election, where it's very clear that the right has very, very strong social media presence and social and podcasts, et cetera, and that they were swaying a lot of young and uninformed people to their side. And so this is an answer to that. So thank you, Corey, for that. Um, I now want to introduce a couple of key people who are the heart of our in-person voter drives. And this is very, very close to us here at Field Team 6 because in-person voter drives are where Field Team 6 started. Yes, we had to stop them down for, a bit while the pandemic raged and until the vaccines and boosters got in place. But as soon as we could, we put them back on the calendars. And I want to introduce you to two people who are absolutely essential in keeping them going. It's Joanne Bolin and Gina Harris.
Hi, everybody. Well, I think for me, I feel that the most personally rewarding thing that I can do to defend our democracy is to register a Democrat in person or show someone how to do that. If you register a Democrat in their 20s, they could vote for Democrats up and down the ballot for the next 60 years. On the last cycle, we here at Field Team 6, we trained hundreds of voter drive leaders, and those teams registered thousands of Democrats and progressive independents in the swing states. And we have a fast and fun Field Team 6 Zoom training to show you the tips, the tools, and the techniques that you will need to lead or co-lead your own Field Team 6 style in-person voter registration drive. So our newest round of trainings is starting up Saturday, February 15th from 10 to 11 a.m. for swing state training, Pacific time. I'll put it in the chat in just a second. And we also offer free private custom in-person voter registration training for groups. So hopefully we can fix this mess we're in by getting good-hearted people to register and then to actually vote. So we welcome any questions. I'll put the contact in the chat and hope to see you on Zoom for those trainings. And I would love to introduce star trainer, Gina Harris.
Hello. If you want to feel like a star, if you want to feel like you can live out what Michelle Obama said, which is Trump won Michigan in 2016 by 2 votes per precinct. If you want to feel you can be that stone that changes the surface of a huge red lake by just dropping it in, one person, and the ripples go out, then you learn how to help register Democrats in person on Zoom. It's a kick. You're the star of your own show. You can reach out to people one-to-one and make a difference, make a handshake, and make it happen. So I'm going to give myself more rockets because it's a rocket show. It's a star show for you. You get immediate gratification, you teach people, and you get something back. Michelle Obama.
Thank you, Gina. If we could figure out a way that we could bottle Gina and her energy, and I could just take a little sip of that every morning. If all of us could just take a little sip of that every morning.
I'm available.
Yeah,
Call me up.
Jason needs a cup in the afternoon as well.
370-9379 is my real cell number. Call me up. I'm happy to do it. It's a never-ending, unfillable, it's an unemptiable cup.
Thank you, Gina. You're wonderful. Joanne, you're wonderful. Thank you for both of you and all of the trainers that we've had, and for everybody who put effort into the Voter Drive in a Box, which is our training system for in-person voter registration drives. Keep an eye on the chat or go to our website under Volunteer Ops for upcoming trainings if you're interested in doing in-person voter registration. I now want to turn to a singular person who is well awarded in the activist space, and he just so happens to be a co-leader of our phone banking program. It's Dan Mariano, everyone. Dan Mariano.
Oh, thank you very much, Dale. It's great to see you, and I'm so happy to see so many of my Field Team 6 team again, feeling rejuvenated and re-inspired for the fight ahead. Nothing makes me feel better in these days than to see all of you guys. But not going to bury the lead any further. As Dale mentioned, I'm the phone bank co-czar. So here with Field Team 6, we do phone banks into many of the key states and many of the key elections throughout the country. In the 2024 election cycle, we did a number of major elections up and down the ticket. We had the year start off with our special election in New York, getting rid of George Santos and replacing him with Tom Suozzi in last spring and last April. We focus on house races like that. We can even focus on state house races, but there are two pillars to our phone banking that I want to make you guys aware of. We have hosting phone banking and joining phone banking. So you can feel free to join any one of the phone banks that we're going to have set up for the year starting this February. These are going to be in for elections, of course, scattered throughout the year. But if you feel that you have a specific interest or topic or issue that you want to have a phone bank on, whether it be a specific ballot measure or a larger scale issue, you can feel free to also host a phone bank for yourself. We coordinate any sort of scripting with you directly on the issues you care about with the candidates that you want to focus on. And we also set up all these pages on Mobilize so that other people can sign up and volunteer for phone banking with us. One of the things I want to mention as well is we use an auto dialer system. So in this beautiful 21st century we're in, you no longer even have to dial each number. Once the phone is connected to our auto dialer system, all of our volunteers have the script in front of them that we have set up for the voter registration for that state. Just want to briefly mention again a couple of the things that we did last year. We were calling into all the swing states. We were calling into all these special races throughout the year. I personally hosted my own phone bank as on top of all the other phone banks I helped co-host and coordinate with all of our volunteers. My phone bank for Alyssa Slotkin, I believe personally, secure her the victory in that race. She won that race by about 20,000 votes, it looks like. And we called over 50,000 people in that phone bank. So every nudge counts. As Gina said, that's a little rock inside of a giant red lake. And we want to make sure that, again, as you're doing this in the most convenient fashion possible, calling on your phone on the weekend, usually in the mornings, usually in the afternoons, whenever is most convenient for the host or for you. I don't even, I dress like this for my phone bank. It's the most casual way and the most effective way, I believe, to be registering voters. So we're going to have training sessions on how to run a phone bank and how to volunteer in a phone bank coming in February as we start dialing those up. But feel free to reach out to me as well in the chat. I'm going to leave my personal email in there, and feel free to ask me any questions in regards to phone banking. So I hope that was good enough, Jason, Dale, but I'll hand it back to you.
Good enough, and great, actually. Thanks so much, Dan. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for everything you're doing. All right. I'm seeing this in the chat. People are concerned about, well, sure, registering people is great, but what if you got to get them to vote? And of course, vote all the way down the ballot. And the question is, how do we handle that epidemic of people not voting down the whole ballot? The answer is Blue Voter Guide. It has always been a sister project, but since the election, Blue Voter Guide has now officially come under the Field Team 6 umbrella. Here to talk about Blue Voter Guide is the founder himself and the author of that incredible emotional piece at the top that Jason read. His name is Wayne Liebman.
Thanks, Dale. Hi, everybody. I want to tell you about Blue Voter Guide. I have a very brief 1-minute video that I'm going to try to play. I've had some trouble with my sound, so not to worry if it doesn't play. Then I'll put a link in the chat to it, but I also have some slides. So I'm going to share my screen and hope that I have sound so that I can play this. If the sound doesn't work, I'll tell you what's on it.
If voting is a test, we did your homework. Sure, you know who you want for president and senator and as your governor. But what about your state's education commissioner, state auditor, attorney general, those incomprehensible ballot measures, and yikes, all those judges? Announcing bluevoterguide.org, your personal ballot assistant. We help you vote fast and smart. Here's how it works. Just enter your address, and Blue Voter Guide shows you what's on your ballot, with helpful endorsements from trusted organizations. If you like the endorsements of a candidate or ballot measure, select it. When you're done, review all your choices. Now use your guide to fill out your ballot. Then celebrate, because if voting is a test, you just got an A+, with a little help from Blue Voter Guide. If voting is a test, we did your homework.
I got it to turn off. I want to show you a couple of slides about Blue Voter Guide. I know a lot of you know about it, but some don't. But now you know a little bit more, and I'll share my screen again.
Personal ballot assistant. We help you vote fast and...
Sorry. All right. So this here is our current elections. So we have elections in 11 states now, and they're all small elections, as you're aware of. We started out 2 years ago with 55,000 voters that used Blue Voter Guide in 9 states. This is what happened. It rose to 3 million people who used Blue Voter Guide in 2024 in all 50 states. That's a 5,000% increase. And the reason this is important is that 40% of people who use the guide report that it allowed them to vote in at least one race they would have skipped without Blue Voter Guide. That's a lot of votes that we've collected that would have been left on the table otherwise. What we do is we find endorsers and critical information about candidates that make voting choices easier. We need lots of people to help with this research. You can go to bluevoterguide.org and then scroll to the bottom of the homepage and then click on the volunteer button, and that will take you to a sign-up page. Tell us about yourself. We'll contact you. It's asynchronous work on your own time. We don't turn anybody down. We welcome everybody to the Blue Voter Guide family, which is now incorporated into Field Team 6. So I'll stop there. Thank you all.
All right, that was a rapid tour of the old Field Team 6 partisan voter registration factory. Here to tie it all together is our founder, Jason Berlin, to tell you about what's coming next.
Thank you so much. So as Patty and her volunteer analytics team told us, in the 2024 cycle, we reached 25 million people with 70 million touches. To put that in perspective, that is the largest voter registration campaign we've ever heard of, bar none. So what did it all add up to? I want to address about 15 people in the chat who have, and this is a natural reaction. I have felt the exact same thing, who are like, well, what does it matter? If we lost anyway. Okay, so like I said, that was my reaction also in the beginning. The thing is, when it was a huge loss, it was a huge loss at the presidential level. When you look below that and begin to see the shades of gray, not just the black and white, what we were able to win was amazing. And gives us the foothold from which we will climb back into power. We can't control the weather, but just because you can't stop a hurricane doesn't mean you shouldn't build a shelter. Just because you can't do everything doesn't mean you should do nothing. And what we are doing is, in fact, one of the, if not the most direct, effective way to win elections. So I just want to show you a little bit about what all that outreach did achieve. And I need to just stress once again, we won't know until the spring, end of spring, summer, when the results come in, which races our efforts were decisive in. But we do know that the races I'm about to show you, we helped win. In every single one of these races, we sent thousands and thousands of emails and texts. And in many, we complemented those with postcards and phone calls. Here's how we can say our success in 24, despite the losses, was amazing. In the Senate, 5 seats we helped in. That's Arizona, Maryland, Michigan, Nevada, Wisconsin. Those, and we'll find out, like I said, which ones we were decisive in. But the fact that we won those 5 Senate seats means we do have a chance to flip the Senate blue in 4 years. If we hadn't, that chance would not be there. But fortunately, you don't have to imagine that, because we helped win these seats. Let's look at the House. In the House, here are the races that we played in where Democrats won. These are all swing districts. Okay, that's 43 seats. If you're wondering whether what we do makes a difference, wonder no more. Those 43 seats, the fact that we battled Republicans almost to a draw in the House means that we will be able to win some battles over these next 2 years. We will be able to chip away at their majority. We have a chance to throw wrenches in the works, throw dust in every gear, a stick in every bicycle spoke, and not allow some of the terrible stuff they want to actually pass. Looking towards the future, this for the first time, we are going to be operating under a 1, 2, and 4 year strategy simultaneously. So this year, there is a lot of stuff to win. There are 7 big wins, at least, but these are the biggest ones that we're going to focus on. The Wisconsin Supreme Court. That will determine the balance of the court, whether it stays liberal. We flipped it liberal with Janet Protasewicz in 23. Who wins now? If Susan Crawford wins, the liberal candidate, it stays liberal, and they push forward on gerrymandering and abortion rights and everything else. That's crucial. That's in April. That's coming up first. Then in November, Pennsylvania Supreme Court, that race will determine whether that court stays liberal or not. Virginia governor's race, Glenn Youngkin, who's Trump in a sweater vest, cannot run a second consecutive term in Virginia. So we have a great chance to get rid of him. The New Jersey governor's race is usually closer than you expect. That's an important one. And there are big mayoral races in 3 key swing states where we can help win the race for the Democrat in Atlanta, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Lansing, Michigan, while registering more Democrats who will help us down the road. Looking at 2026, here's what we got to do. Paint the House blue, prime the Senate. We absolutely can and will flip the House. We need a net gain of 3 seats. There are 63 swing seats. 21 are flip opportunities. 42 are we need to hold. So we can absolutely flip the House. We need to prime the Senate, by which I mean net gain of 1 seat. We can't flip the Senate this time. We're going to work on 7 races. One in particular, North Carolina, Tom Tillis, we could flip that. Susan Collins is next in line. She's also up. We're going to try to pry her loose, see what we can do. And in 28, blue trifecta. That is our road. Hold the House, take back the Senate by adding 2 seats at least. And there are 2, the other one in North Carolina that's occupied by Ted Budd right now, Republican, and Ron Johnson in Wisconsin is up We'll be fighting in more than those, but those are the two that I'm looking at for us to get to 50-50 in the Senate, and we take the White House, restoring the blue trifecta and removing the immediate threat of fascism. That is our road, and everything contributes to that goal. Everything we do. What we're going to be doing differently, we've always focused on very accessible language. We're going to be making it even more accessible to people of all different opportunity levels. Even more social media outreach and podcasts, like you were hearing about the project that Corey's working on, how to lose a guy in 4 years. Even more refined targeting using the breakthrough that Patty and our analytics team made last year, and even more working with partners on the ground on messaging to make sure we're doing everything we need to do. So that is what we will be focusing on. We are already putting up, as you've seen, events for postcarding, BYOP texting, text arcades. We'll be putting up phone banks soon. We have a training for in-person voter drives coming up. Every possible way there is to register more Democrats and win more elections. We're getting those up already, and they'll be coming fast and furious in the coming days and weeks. So let's open it up to Q&A. I know we're going over. Thanks for bearing with us. I'd love to take like 5 questions.
All right, I got one.
Okay.
Got one. You ready? And this is really a question about the data and the data we purchase. How are likely Democrats defined?
Great question. So what we were using were the parameters of the political data vendors that we bought our lists from, of unregistered people. They deemed them likely Democrats using their own proprietary blend of age, gender, location, some purchase data. You know, if someone drives a Prius and eats, kale, stuff like that, goes to hot yoga. The breakthrough that Patty and her volunteer analytics team made allowed us to use our own parameters and use some machine learning and do that with a much greater accuracy. So we'll see what the results are when we get them back. But that breakthrough allowed us to determine who's a likely Democrat with 93% accuracy instead of 40 to 50% that we were getting from the political data vendors.
Great. Okay, so next question. Who is engaging young voters and true influencers? Can we talk a little bit about who we partnered with in the 24 cycle?
Yes, we partnered with Voters of Tomorrow, with name some other. We partnered with Maxwell Frost in Florida on multiple events. And young voters are included in the people that we buy on our list of unregistered likely Democrats. So we go after them as much as we possibly can. There, not enough of them are included. They're difficult to get data for because they haven't been around as long. They don't have as big a data footprint. And that's part of the reason that in-person voter drives are so crucial, because campuses are our #1 target, #1 location for those voter drives. And it's just in person is a great way for of getting to young people.
So there's a couple of questions about is voter registration more effective than GOTV? Want to speak to that?
Sure. Yeah. So it's let me just reframe the question. The overwhelming majority of the activist world, as in almost everybody, is focused over here on getting out the vote. Almost everyone. We're the lone voices in the wilderness, the only national organization focusing on registering more Democrats, doing partisan voter registration to feed that giant beast. So that's
how many organizations would you estimate are doing GOTV?
All of them. I mean, really almost, it's close to all. It's
and the party,
the party, it focuses,
candidates.
exclusively, almost exclusively on getting out the vote. All the candidates, all the campaigns,
Right?
almost every
Dem
grassroots group.
clubs. How many organizations are doing partisan voter registration? How
You're
many?
looking
Well,
at-
let me put it a different way. How many organizations are doing partisan voter registration every day of every year?
Yeah, nationally, like you're looking at them, you know? So, we're the ones, and there should be more. There should be more.
Here,
But this
here's
is
my
why
here's
we need
here's
to.
my answer to this question, Jason, because I think the Republicans know this. They know that if they can get people off the voter rolls, or if they can stop people from getting on the voter rolls, that's better for them, right? That's what voter suppression is. So they're actively working to get people off the rolls. They're actively working to make it harder to get people onto the rolls. And so this is the answer to that, which is if you keep taking a bucket of water out of the pool through voter suppression or by getting people off the rolls, that's a good way to lower the number of registered Democrats. But if we're pouring new Democrats into the pool, that means that they get access to that GOTV. If they're not in the pool, they're not getting any of this, right?
Right. Also, when you're working on a campaign, when you're working on get out the vote, you're fighting for a vote. When you're working on partisan voter registration, you're fighting for a voter who will vote up and down the ballot for the rest of their lives. So you're affecting potentially hundreds of elections, hundreds of races, not just one. This is the way that people want to be helping with every race. This is how to do that. We register people in the swing states and swing house districts, specifically targeting the pressure points of the Republican Party, where just a few new voters can swing an election. And you're helping us in every single state and district where it matters most.
Very good. Most of the other questions are about what our results are, which we've already said we don't know yet for the 24 cycle. I would invite everybody to go to the website and read the impact report for the 22 cycle. There's lots of interesting information in there, and it will be great to compare that to when we get our 24 cycle impact report.
Hey,
So-
how are we going to refute disinformation? I think that's a good question. I'm going to vocalize it for someone in the chat. Just quickly, Jason, come on.
Well, that's exactly what Corey was addressing. That's exactly what Corey was addressing, which is like this whole program of getting progressive messaging into podcasts and through social media, through short films. All of that we're working on behind the scenes. There was a link in the chat. I'm sure we can post it again. If you're interested in participating, sign up. There's hundreds of people who have said they would like to host or produce or do sound mixing, composing, etc. So we've got 4 in the works already. If you want to join in, sign up. If you can't find that link, you can always go to the Field Team 6 website, sign up for the volunteer behind the scenes. We'll connect you to the right people.
I'm also going to say that when we hear about how people who not seeking out any political information or news, they broke heavily for Trump. People seeking out any news at all broke heavily for Kamala and Tim. Like, the people that we are reaching out to are vast majority low information and no information people who are not registered to vote. We're reaching out to those exact people. We may be one of their few or only sources for true information, and with some partisan spin, not spin, but a partisan flavor. So we're telling them, like, if you are for abortion rights, if you're for a booming economy, if you're for rights for every human being and addressing climate change and, all the causes we love, vote for Senator Jackie Rosen, Senator Tammy Baldwin, Ruben Gallego. We have that name in there. So even just in the most basic things that we're doing, outreach that we're doing, we are combating that misinformation.
All right, Jason, wrap it up.
All right. So there is no team that wins every single time. There is no team like that. Yes, this was a huge loss, but does that change the fact that the National Resistance won every major federal election from 2016 until now against all odds? Hell no. Does that change the fact that the National Resistance has been getting better at what we do now for 8 years, 2 full army stints? Hell no. And does it change the fact that the National Resistance is the best organizing team in modern history? Hell no. Are there limits to what we do? Of course there are. Are we chipping away at those limits every week, month, and year? It's all we do. Is our work still important? It has never been more important. So take heart, look around you at what you have built, this amazing organization, as well as the National Resistance, and keep fighting alienation with connection, apathy with empathy, and hate with love. Keep connecting with each other and our events and reaching out of our bubble to connect with unregistered people and bring them into the fold. Because it's not just our victories that make a better society, it's also the battle itself. Or to quote Thich Nhat Hanh, there is no way to peace, peace is the way. Thank you.